Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to Social Register Network, one-on-one with Social Register members. My name is Mary Grace Iniguez, and I am the host and also the CEO and owner of Social Register Network. I have a privilege of interviewing our members and really getting to know them, how they got started, and find out ways that you can connect with them and build the quality network and add them to your network. So today, I have a special treat for you. And I say that because personally, her and I have a relationship, but her name is Kim D. Snyder, and she is the CEO and founder of M.O.R.E Business in a Box. Just a side note, she is my business coach and my business strategist. So that's why I said, it's a treat for me to interview you. Now I'm on this end interviewing her. Kim,
oh boy.
Tell everybody about yourself personally, professionally, your history, anything you'd like.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm happy to be here. And, I think the perfect story about how I got to where I'm at probably starts in my childhood when I was a little girl growing up in Southern California. And I was an athlete. I used to beat up on my brother because even though I'm older, I was stronger at that age. But I was never a girl to play with Barbies. But what I did do is I used to play with those erector sets, those things that you would build. But then I would also sew and do crafts. And I think that's a perfect analogy of where I'm at now, because I use that framework and that structure, but that creativity. And that's how I help business owners really craft their business. And I took a 30-year stint in the middle of that to go to corporate America, do high-level management consulting. But I was essentially doing, frameworks and applying them to get a desired result. And I moved to Vegas about 20 years ago. So don't hate. I kind of consider myself a Vegas native. I've been here for 20 years. I love it. I love the sun. I'm happy to be here. I went to school at University of Arizona in Tucson, which I kind of fell in love with the desert. And so when I was looking for places to move, Vegas was a great place because I wanted to be able to have a place that I could travel and fly out of. I had enough excitement in the city, and that's where I landed.
Ah, so I didn't know that part about the Arizona, but well, welcome. Yes, I consider you a native. I've been here for 22 years. And I like to say, oh, I'm from the Bay Area, but my husband's like, no, you're a native. You went to high school and everything out here. I'm like, oh yeah, okay.
I'm not really a native, but I beat the California rush that's been happening in the last couple of years. So
yeah. So you shared you were part of corporate America. So what made you make the shift, to become an entrepreneur and launch your business?
My dad was a business owner growing up. He sold business opportunities. He sold land. He sold things. And so I kind of saw that entrepreneurship growing up. I helped him doing his books early on. Oh, and that was always in the back of my mind, even though I took the corporate route, which my brother didn't take the corporate route. So it's always interesting, right? You have the same upbringing and raising, but you always choose these different paths. But it just always sort of stuck with me that okay, it might be there in the future. And so I ended up starting my business 10 years ago while I was still in corporate, because I'm all about options and opportunities. That's one of my core values is I always want to have options and opportunities. And so I started that business going, I just want to have options. I don't know if I'll ever get tired of travel. I don't know if I'll ever get tired of the crazy world. And I really didn't, actually. It just kind of got to a point where I had an incredible career. I really liked it. I wasn't running from anything. I was just time to really shift and go, okay, I want to start doing something for myself, helping, small business owners. Cause you can kind of I'm not gonna say touch and feel, but you know what I mean? I was working in Fortune 500 companies and I was working at headquarters and I would work with some of the people, but some of the downstream effects I didn't get to always see. Mm-hmm. And the small business, you can see the folks that you're helping. And I kind of wanted that feeling and I missed that. So that was definitely one of the catalysts for leaving. I did get tired of traveling because I did travel almost every week for 30 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I really did.
When I met you, you were still sort of in that transition, because when I met you, when I first started working for Social Register, I think you were still traveling a lot. And this was about 10 years ago. Is that correct?
Yep, that's about right. Well, I would say maybe 7 years ago, I think when we first joined Social Register, It was about, I was still traveling. My husband was sort of taking some of the more day-to-day stuff and I was kind of providing more guidance. So we moved from that to streamlining and totally changing. So that's why I left. It was, again, not running. It was just kind of, I didn't want to travel. I wanted a little bit more control out of my time. And I really wanted to have more face-to-face time with the people that I helped.
Yeah, I feel like that's why a lot of people become entrepreneurs, is that time freedom and really being able to make an impact personally. Because that's what I love too about working with small business. I mean, you get to really get to know the business owner, the person who created this product or this service, and then work with their team. That's the part I love too. So I agree with you, Kim.
Yeah, and it's funny, I just started a new business as well. So I still have the coaching consulting, but I have a new business called Welcome Maids, and it's maid and house cleaning service. And talk about like direct, like I am working with these folks and I get to see the impact. And these people love to clean, right? And so talking about seeing impact, the homeowners get to have a clean home, but it's fun to work with my team. They love to clean. At the end of the day, they're like OCD, a lot of them say, and they like to have a clean house. And so seeing them get happy, that's kind of cool too. So it's just kind of taking it to a new level.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about Welcome Maids. We're going to dive into more business in a box. I want you to tell them about that, but I want to know what made you launch another business. Like, was there something you've always wanted to do, or why this came up?
So it wasn't that particular business, but I've been on the search for the last year for another business. So one of the things that I talk about in More Business in a Box is making sure you have multiple revenue streams and to minimize the risk. And so Welcome Mates is not quite a revenue stream. It's another business, but it sort of is another revenue stream, right? It's one that's taking me out of the picture. And I wanted something that didn't rely upon me. So yes, I can handle the operations, but it's a lot of technology. It is matching people that need a house cleaned with people that want to clean. And so I kind of look at it that way. So that was the catalyst. I've had a maid. I love having a house cleaners to come. I love the feeling afterwards. I wanted to look at something at the local market. I wanted to help the other small independent folks, right? The cleaners, I wanted to help them. And it's all about small business for me. And so it was really just kind of that perfect mix, and it just came up. And so we, had our first clients last week. I mean, we just launched, we got everything ready, but really just, in this last week we started launching, and it was really those three things that pulled them together that I wanted to do. But the benefit is that I didn't really encounter Mary Grace. What's was funny is that some of my clients actually have B2C work. I typically work with them on the B2B side. We really look at strategy and strategic relationships, but I'm really even understanding that world more. So I'm like understanding how to be more efficient in your talent pipeline and hire much more efficiently, and like really understanding the nuances on B2C. I've never claimed to be a B2C expert, but I'm getting there, right? When you have to market there. So I'm actually learning things. There's side benefits, but that was really the primary catalyst, is just starting another business that wasn't dependent upon me and helping other folks as well be employed.
I love it. Okay. So thank you so much for sharing that, because I know that's something new that you have launched, and I knew that. And I'm like, hey, we need to share that with our social register members.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And people are going, well, did you quit your other business? No, I didn't quit. Like, why can't I just start another one? It's, hey.
You're a serial entrepreneur.
Well, I guess I'm starting to be. Yeah, because I do have additional, I have other businesses in my mind that I've got this goal that I'm launching a new one every quarter or every 6 months. So stay tuned for the next one next year. Who knows what it'll be?
Our common friend and colleague, a connection, John Mediana, says that business owners and entrepreneurs have thousands of ideas, thousands of business ideas, thousands of businesses we want to launch. So we are true entrepreneurs here.
We are. And the problem is, what do you focus on, right? Which is having to figure that out, which is what I help with my business owners too. Like, we're all the same. Like, we have all these ideas, and then we start to dilute our time and effectiveness. And so how do we rein it in and be really diligent? And so for me, I'm doing one every quarter. It's like, let me concentrate on a new revenue stream or a new business every quarter and get it up and going, and then do the next one. And so that gives me the freedom to still create, but it still gives me that structure of okay, let's actually accomplish anything, because I am definitely a starter. I'm a fast start, and I have a hard time finishing. I really, really have to push myself to finish. And so I could have 5 or 6 unfinished projects at a time. I don't do that for book reading, but I do it for projects or businesses.
Finding a commonality here, because a lot of entrepreneurs do that with books and courses and different things. And
yeah, I think I'm just preaching to the choir, right? I think I'm just putting into words what we're all thinking, because we all do that. So
I want to dive into More Business in a Box. I want you to share with them really what is the business and how do you help them, because I just want to preface this section because when I knew I was buying the social register, actually, when I knew, I said to myself, I need help. I need someone that can look from the outside in, because I was already part of the business for 10 plus years. So I wanted to make shifts and make changes. But because I was so like in it, I needed someone else to come in, and I needed someone that wasn't family, not friends or anything. I needed an expert. So that's why I reached out to Kim, and I'm like, hey, I'm buying the social register. She was so excited. And I'm like, I wanted to hire you because I know I need an expert, and I need someone who is going to help me like build the roadmap where I want to go and have goals and keep me accountable. And that's what Kim does for me. But please tell everybody, what is More Business in a Box, and share, who do you work with? Like, who is your ideal client?
My ideal client is service-based entrepreneurs that are already making six figures and want to go to seven and even eight. And what we do is we provide the framework for them and a roadmap. We co-create that together based on the goals they want to whatever they want to achieve. And we focus on 4 areas: marketing, operations, revenue, and efficiency. And I can share some, results that my business owners have received in those areas if you'd like, because I think that might be a perfect way to exemplify, like, okay, because everyone's like, what does a business strategist do? And it's like, we help you achieve your goals. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, okay, here's some examples.
Yes, please do it.
Okay. So let's just start with M, which is marketing, right? So some of the things that I've helped business owners really achieve or recognize or see is, it's coming down to marketing. So one of the things we talk about is having the 6 or 7, the multiple streams of revenue. What happens is when you get far enough along in your business, most of my business owners have been around for 3, 5, 10 years. They're really relying on word of mouth. Well, that's a risk, because that's, one of the 5 or 6 ways that you can actually do marketing. And so we really start looking at that going, okay, let's make sure we have additional revenue streams, and let's really figure out if we can get one that we can turn on and off. So when we need business and leads, we can turn it on. And so, one of my business owners has something similar, but they haven't touched it in a while. And it was like, okay, we need to go back and refine it so that when we need an injection of leads or customers, we can turn it on. And we're talking service-based, and this is not an industry that you would typically think that this would happen. So that's one of the areas that we look at. Another area that we look at in marketing is thought leadership. How do you stand out in the market? How do you get inbound leads? How do you be the person that's the obvious choice? And a couple of those areas that we work with our business owners, not all of them, it has to work on their personality and where they want to go. And also that's my assessment of them, of what they can handle. And it's speaking and writing a book. And so I do remember one of my business owners, we talked about how do they stand out in the marketplace, because they're definitely younger and they needed to bump up their presence. And so, at the beginning of the year, I said, you're going to write a book. And they freaked out. They said, no way, I'm not going to read a book. I'm not going to do it.
Okay, I'm laughing because I think that's me.
I'm not saying who it was.
I was going to share that anyways, because I was going to say about the thought leader part. I was like, oh, I gave you a lot of pushback on that one. Yeah,
you did. Yes, you definitely did. Okay. But then you owned it, right? So that's part of that coaching relationship about understanding, what your business owner needs and what they can do before they actually do it. And so, you're not the only one, Mary Grace, that, had a similar, experience. And so, that was one of the ways that we helped business owners really understand about that. I had another business owner that same thing. It was like, you're going to write a book. And they said, no. Then they came back to me and texted me and said, okay, here's what my book would be about. Okay. And so, I don't just say you're going to write a book. I say why you're going to write a book and why it makes sense for you based on where you told me where you want to go on your business, how long you want to be in your business, the type of business you have, the competition that's going on, what areas of the geography we're targeting, how the industry is moving, where the trends are. So it's like all these factors that we take into place, and it's a discussion, right? This is why I say it's a co-create. Like, it's not me dictating something, and it's not you saying yes or no. It's here's my ideas and here's why. Let's figure this out based on what you told me. And that's what we work for. So those are some of the areas in marketing. And the operations side, there's probably 2 or 3 common areas that I see, which is when you get ready to hire, who do you hire? Do you hire operations or do you hire a salesperson? And I've had a couple clients go different ways, and it depends on their strengths. So, and or their personal goals. So one was like, we're hiring a salesperson because I want to make sure the money keeps coming in. I'll handle the operations a little bit longer until I get to the sales to the X dollar. Awesome. Had another customer say, nope, doing operations, I'm done. Like, I don't want to handle this anymore. I would rather do the sales, right? But it's also handling that. And that's not just that level. It's like, okay, we start to identify like, hey, I think you're growing enough that you're going to need to have somebody else in this role. Or if somebody leaves your team, rather than hiring for somebody. So we had somebody that one of my customers, their contractors left, and they were doing 2 different things only because they had this skill set. And I said, great. Now we're going to hire 2 different people so that it's easier going forward, because from an operations standpoint, you're not generally going to find somebody with those 2 skills. You're going to find somebody that has each one of these. So let's just hire separately, be very clear. So we clearly define the roles and the responsibilities, which means we were able to back into who we wanted to hire. So we had to go put that out into hire, but it also means when they came in to join the team, they knew what they were going to do and how they interacted with the team. And so that was really important in documenting that process. So, getting to the point where your team can start to run without you, or at least semi without you, just a regular check-in. So those are a couple areas on the operations side. Talent pipeline. So how do you streamline your hiring process, right? So I've had to do that even from the maid. So I could take exactly what I'm doing in that and help my business owners. And I have, and how do we use technology, but how do we make it personal? Where do we start looking at risk? I also kind of consider that in the operations side. So do we have the right insurance? Are we updating our contracts? So, I'll highlight those areas and then say, you need to go check with your partners, go check with your attorney, go check with your accountant and make sure these things are covered. So those are some of the areas in the operations side.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, because I'm not an expert. I'm not a business coach or strategist. I coach on different things, but not the business entirely. And so I always try to explain it to people that you're God sent to me. And the only way I can explain it to my son or other people is it's like when you had a basketball coach, because my son played basketball and football. It's like when you had that basketball coach or football coach that was always drilling on you and you're like, God, he's always on me. He's always on me. But it's because they know your potential. They know already how, where you're going and what's your potential and where you can be. And that's what I see in you. And I tell my husband that all the time. I'm like, Kim saw all of this for me already. And I was giving her so much crap. I remember I was like, no, Kim, I'm not doing that.
but you're not alone, right? And so do you want me to finish up the other two letters, the revenue and the operations, because you're not the only person that's pushed back when we're talking about the risk, right? I know what I heard in front of my face. I can imagine what was happening in the discussions behind the scenes,
but
right?
It's okay. I'm an open book. I want people to know that I'm a real entrepreneur and a business owner, and these are the ups and downs I go through. So I love that you share.
Yeah. Not only you, but a bunch, right? I mean, we all go through it. So, I have a coach because you can't see what you can't see. And it's really important that you have that, because they're looking at things, they know things because you're not in it and you can see the things. And I think that's really important. And I think, picking that right resource for you, I mean, you should be able to be comfortable calling them. I think one of my best things that one of my customers said to me was like, oh my God, something happened and I just thought I needed to call you. And I thought, well, that for you to think about me first when something happened in your business was really, really touching. And it's like, okay, cool, we'll figure it out together, right? And I've had that happen. Had a couple customers oh my God, this happened. I made a mistake. I made a foot. Cool. Let's figure it out. Let's fix this situation and let's fix it going forward so we know how to handle that or mitigate it in the future. So I love that part. Okay. R is for revenue, and revenue is anything from relationships to risk to revenue, and it is revenue streams, but it's also monitoring your revenue. And so there's a couple key areas. And so what I work with my customers a lot is getting that dashboard. And it's kind of I call it like the before the flight, like, oh my God, you're getting ready to be on a plane for the next 5 days and out of, communication. What is it that you need to see about your business to make sure that it's running? And it typically goes down to 4 areas, right? It's typically, am I getting the number of leads? Am I converting them? Are the margins of my business good? Because you want to make sure that everything's going up relative. You don't want to have your revenue going up, but your expenses going up exponentially higher. Let's see, leads, revenue, marketing, some of the conversions of the marketing, or how many things get opened, and actually dollar value. So making sure that the dollar value, so not only the margin, but the dollar value is increasing. So those are some of the key areas that we look at, like how do we just have that dashboard? How do we mitigate our risk for revenue? A lot of people don't think about this, but some of my customers, we've actually done online training, and it's in industries, again, that you wouldn't typically think about it, but we're looking at it going, okay, our business is too dependent upon these couple areas, or too much in labor, or too much on the internet, or too much on this. And so it's like, how do we start to diversify so that we're at less risk, right? So like I was sharing about myself, like I created my maid business because I needed to have a revenue stream that wasn't so dependent upon me. So sometimes we do it within the business and sometimes without. We look at those KPIs, like I mentioned. We looked at, let's see, dashboards. Those are probably the biggest key areas I see in there. One of the things that we looked at too is the profit tuning. So the fries, like, would you like fries with that? Well, we took that concept to some business owners that made sense, where we said, hey, what if we sold them additional X? And if it was just a low price point, like another $50, that would be another 20, 30, 40K in the business. So what is it that we could find? And it turns out like this particular customer had tried that in the past, but times like they didn't monitor. Well, I don't know what happened, but we're like, okay, let's look at it and be diligent. So we said, let's track it. Let's figure out what we need to offer. Let's make sure we have the right margin. Let's make sure we're not delivering. Let's find the right partners. So there was a whole process to getting that done that we really wanted to look at for revenue. And so those are some of the things that we worked with for the customers. Any other questions on the R before we go to E for efficiency?
I love the revenue part, because as a CEO and business owner, you don't always think of all the other capabilities and other things that you can be making money off of. So I know I just said that, like, but it's true, right? Like, we're so focused on whatever the service and product we're offering. And it's like, hey, did you know that you can also monetize off of doing this? For example, we can use my example. For example, when I launched my program, the networking program, it was one of the things where we saw a gap from an entrepreneur and then joining the organization, but not knowing how to network and how to really attend the events. And it's like, okay, well, I should be teaching them. Let's offer a program. So that was one of the things that we went through. I think it helps to share, like, there are things that you don't even think of, and you're like, what?
And you were already doing it, right? You were already doing it. And it was like, well, let's just formalize it and monetize it. And that worked, right? That worked for you at that time. And so who knows, if we would have tried it 6 months prior, it might not have worked based on where you're at. And so the cool thing is that this is our business, and we do have the option to change our mind, and we can say, I don't want to do that, or I want to do that. You can change your mind. And so you have the options, right? Which is the perfect segue to the efficiency section, because to me, again, that options is making sure that you have the systems to run so you don't have to be in the day-to-day. Or if you want to be in the day-to-day, you can. It depends on what your personal preference is. And some people like to be in the day-to-day, some people don't. It just depends where you're at. But for me, the efficiency area is, I still talk to people about how to be more efficient with email and schedules. I can't tell you how many times I do that for almost all business owners. And it's, talking about, you don't want to spend time, and it doesn't mean you offload all of that crap to somebody else. It's just crap. So how do we streamline the process? How do we give the knowledge? What do we have to do before it gets into our inbox or our schedule? And then also scheduling as a business owner is really important, because your time is super important. So how do you start to protect that schedule and that calendar? How do you really step up to be a leader in your company and your organization, right? Because again, you're kind of in the operations, but how do you start taking those leadership skills? And maybe it's negotiating with vendors more efficiently. Maybe it's going, hey, I've got some negotiating power here with my suppliers. Let's recognize that. And how do we leverage that to help all of us? How do we lead when we make a mistake? How do we run a team efficiently? How do we still be friendly but not friends so they recognize us, right? I mean, so there's a bunch of leadership skills in that area. I wrote some notes here to see. One of the areas that we talked about too is project management. How do we understand the basics of project management? So when we want to run a new CRM system or website, we can be efficient in that so that we're not repeating the wheel. So I do like a lot of really basic project management so that they can run programs, efficiencies, events, book launches, in-person training, workshop, whatever it is you want to do. You can take those concepts and apply them so that you're being efficient and not wasting time and, keeping everybody happy. Those are probably some of the biggest areas I see in efficiency. I don't know what else you want to add to that, if anything.
Yeah, I feel like one of the big pieces you've helped me with in that area is making sure that I'm creating SOPs, standard operating procedures, so that when we do bring a team member in, they're not having to go to me and I'm not having to train them for several weeks or days. Like, we have the manual, we have the operations. And again, that's that time freedom that you're freeing up, and that we as CEOs and business owners, that the business can run without us, even if we have to step away.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really important concept, because I think people think they always have to spend time on the phone or training. And it's like, no, it's actually what you really want to do is provide the on-demand or just-in-time information and let people consume it how and when they want. Then when you have those calls, it's for clarifying, and they're a lot shorter. So you shouldn't be, especially as the owner, you shouldn't be on the phone training your team. You should be on the phone for a 10 to 15 minute, what questions do you have about the recorded training and SOPs, right? And so that's a really, really important concept, because you can take that and leverage it at every level in your organization.
Yes, that's the part that obviously I loved, because I was spending time training on the phone or on Zoom, and I'm like, wait, all this time I was training someone, I could have recorded it so then it was available for the next person, or if we hire more people and maybe this person is promoted, that kind of thing. So it was like,
yeah.
Oh my
and
gosh.
It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, literally just record what you're doing. Like, if you haven't even started, literally just record yourself doing it. So when you hire somebody, give them that and then let them do the updates. They can add in a little bit more, structure, but get that done, and it'll get so many hours off your plate. You will feel so much less stress and more freedom and more, less burden. So
yes, you said it right there, the stress, because it's that thought as a CEO and business owner that no one knows how to run the business, and it's all in you. And if something were to happen to you, that the business would die with you. And it's like, that's not what you want, right? You don't want it. I mean, unless that's what you want, but a high percentage of us don't want that.
Yeah. And so it's really about understanding like those areas in the business. So that's why I developed the M.O.R.E framework, right? Because those are the key areas to get the biggest results. And I really like having the frameworks and the freedom and the fun and the creativity. And I like when my clients get results. I mean, I want to help them and help their families and help their team. So everybody has a place to work in an environment that they like. Like, that's what it's about at the end of the day, is helping others, right? I mean, I'd love to do a lot of training and teaching in there. Whatever the term you want to call, coach, teacher, consultant, advisor, I don't care what it is. Like, all I know is we're going to get results. So whatever the term is you want to use, we're going to get results. So, it started with building the erector set when I was younger. It started with the creativity and sewing and crafts. And I just kind of see it still continues. So
that's what I loved about you. That's why I chose you, is because you have the fun and the creativity, and you and I can talk just woman to woman. You're one of my friends and one of my business besties, because I can come to you and tell you things where I won't feel intimidated. I won't feel like someone's drilling on me, even though sometimes I do, but I know it's for the best for me. But that's why I chose you, is because you're fun, you're bubbly, you're creative. And then you also have that background of the corporate, but also you have the background as being an entrepreneur yourself. That was like some key things for me. I'm like, okay, she has the corporate side, so I sort of kind of want that structure, but not really. And then she also has the entrepreneur side, where she gets the day-to-day, the journey that I'm actually going through. And then also I can talk to you as a real person, a human to human, woman to woman.
Yeah. And we can talk about serious stuff and still, have casual conversations about serious
Mm-hmm.
topics. It doesn't change the seriousness of it's just,
Yeah.
why not have fun when we do it? We're all here. Let's
Yeah.
make it work. And, I want to work from home. I don't want to travel anymore. So
I love it. Well, Kim, thank you so much for coming on with me and sharing more about you, Welcome Maids, more business in a box. But I want to let them know how can they connect with you because you are a great connection to add to their network because I personally know you are a connector. So everyone needs to add you to their network. How can they get a hold of you?
thanks, Mary Grace. I would say probably follow me on LinkedIn. I'm most active there, though I'm starting to add Instagram. And yeah, I'm one of those Twitter people. I love Twitter. I figured, it works for me. It's the agile approach for Twitter, whatever you can say in 140 characters or 280, whatever it's at, like perfect. So I'm pretty much Kim D. Snyder or the Kim D. Snyder anywhere. So please follow me. If you follow me on LinkedIn, please say hi and where you found me. And I would love to connect with you as well.
Absolutely. We'll put all of your contact information in the description of the box. So if you're catching the replay, feel free to connect with Kim. If you are in Las Vegas, you'll see her at our upcoming in-person events. But also, if you're at another chapter and Kim happens to be in DC or Orange County, I'm sure she'll be popping into one of those events too.
Yep.
And of course, virtual speed networking, you can reach out to her or connect with her in one of our events. But yeah, I will put all your information in the description box. If you guys have any other questions for Kim, you want to find out more information about either of her businesses or just connect with her personally, reach out to her in the description of the box. So I am going to close it out today. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Kim, for coming on the show with us to share more about you. Tune in with us every Thursday from 11:30 to about 12 o'clock, where you can learn more about our social register members and how you can build a quality network with our social register members. All right, we'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.